Mackenzie, that's me. Inspiration for my money. Inspiration is information from the implications of words and actions. And like I always tell people, I'm gonna run that back because most people don't even understand when I say that, because I was fucked up when I wrote it myself. So back again. Inspiration is information from the implications of words and actions. And for you and you alone, that is your satisfaction. And no, that's not being selfish, because that one gift will never leave you helpless, because you toot your own horn, you bust your own bubble, and the God within you confirms that you are one of another. And to this counterfeit society, that's trouble. But even through this struggle, our light should shine the brightest, our bond should be the tightest, and all of my people should scream for joy until we all got laryngitis. Sometimes I find it hard for my people to get excited. That shit hurts my soul, because that ain't even how we roll. We too strong, too old, too wise, too bold to be falling for the same tricks. Niggas hooked on lies, still searching for that same fix. And I swear I hope they overdose. Chill that shit and let the truth be their Holy Ghost. But there ain't no truth until you decide what truth is. So I speak my mind, I let my light shine, allowing me to do this. Because nigga, I do this. Not just poems, but also growing. I hit a continuous growth spurt and don't need no church. You got popes fucking children. You got preachers banking accounts up to millions, and that's supposed to be healing? What they do to that? Here. And we try to act like the elephant ain't in the room because we controlled by fear. But ain't no rabbit blood in me, so I ain't running. And I ain't scared. So after this piece, if I wind up dead, just know that a price on my motherfucking head, nigga.
Shout out to BABATV.
All day long, shout out to BABATV, nigga. All day.
Shout out to BABATV. Black Power.
Man, BABATV, man, it's lit. Man, y'all check it out right now on YouTube. Subscribe to
BABATV. Black Power.
Peace, love, and light, family. It's your brother Sankofa, back at you. All right. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to BABATV, which you know is fire every time. And I want to thank you, Baba, for your consistency to excellence and constantly disseminating this information to the people. We love and we appreciate Baba Fire every time for his consistency and his great work. What I want to talk about today, family, is brainwashing yourself. That's right. Brainwashing yourself. The importance of brainwashing yourself. Now, it might sound a little crazy. Brainwashing yourself? What does that mean? What do you mean by brainwashing yourself? Exactly what I'm saying. Brainwashing yourself. Now, we got to understand what brainwash means. Brainwash means to make someone adopt a radically different belief by using systematic and often forcible pressures on a person. Okay? See, what I mean by brainwashing yourself is a counter stratagem to the brainwashing that many of us are already subjects of and products of right now, whether it's through social engineering, intergenerationally, whether it's through indoctrination due to your belief systems or what you were taught in school, whether it's through advertisement and marketing, whether it's through the music that you listen to. Many of us are even unaware as to the levels of the brainwashing that we are products of and even subject to. So being that I'm talking about brainwashing, we're going to have to talk about the science a little bit of the brain, how it works, the mind on a cellular level, you know what I'm saying, on a biochemical level, and how thought, you know what I'm saying, or your state of consciousness dictates the world around you. That's right. On a quantum level, okay, and in quantum science is a theory that suggests that consciousness creates your reality. So everything you think and believe and perceive creates the world around you. Now, see, if you are a product and a subject of intergenerational brainwashing, or just brainwashing in your immediate community or household, what happens is the thoughts that you have create and recreate the world around you and the experiences that you are constantly having. Okay? So when you understand the power of your own being and you recalibrate your thinking and you rewire your mind with a whole new type of consciousness, yes, you can offset and undermine the state of consciousness that you're already subject to, if that makes any sense. And if not, hopefully by the end of this video, that it makes a lot more sense than it does now. Okay? So now we want to talk about a little bit about the mind and belief transition. And, you know, a lot of us, we're products of thinking, and what the things that we think and the things that we do end up becoming the sum total of who we are, because you are what you think and what you do, not what you wear, what you think. You see what I'm saying? See, reputation is how one perceives himself, but character is who you really are. Okay? So we want to talk about belief transitioning and how, in order to counter old undesirable thoughts of self, old insecurities and self-perceptions or what have you, it is very incumbent, critically incumbent. Excuse me. It is critically incumbent, you know what I'm saying, that you transition the way that you think. So that is belief replacement, or thought or belief transitioning is very imperative in order to accomplish the goal of transitioning your mind from where you're at to the desired place in which you want to go. Now, see, being conscious is one thing. Conscious means to be aware of your environment around you and to respond accordingly. Now, being conscious, whether or what school of thought you're in, no, it doesn't matter whether you're whatever, it doesn't automatically help us to overcome the mental damage, the psychological damage, and a lot of the pain, okay, that a lot of us, that we harbor, that we foster within our subconscious. A lot of it hasn't been addressed in many of us. A lot of us hold old habits and ways and negative thoughts and addiction to negative emotionalism as a result of the experiences that we had that we have never been healed from. That's right. You wonder why the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. That's because a lot of people are really subject and products of their own thought process or unchecked mindset and thought process. Therefore, you see that manifest in their conversation and in their habits, you know what I'm saying, on a regular basis. So what we want to talk about is recalibrating the mind and the importance of being real conscious with a conscience, and how that is very important. Because see what it is, a lot of times when we say Black Power or Hotep or Shalom or Islam or whatever we're into, and we get into this because we want to transcend from the current state of mind that we're in into a higher faculty of thought by all breaking the shackles that we all know is on our minds. A lot of us, we get into a lot of different ideologies and knowledge, and that's a good thing because every journey starts with a first step. But a lot of us fail to realize that even with our knowledge, even with our newfound consciousness, there is a lot of unchecked issues and unresolved issues that we have going on within us. Okay? So when we say Black Power, a lot of times it's an attempt to compensate for our damaged condition in this material reality. Is it an attempt to compensate for our damaged conditions in this material reality? You see what I'm saying? And it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? But a lot of times we get conscious and we get knowledge, and a lot of times what we see is a lot of facadism. So a lot of times with what it is in your newfound knowledge or the passion that you got for the new ideas that you're now standing upon, you know, what happens is we forget about a lot of the unresolved issues deep in our collective subconscious. Okay? And we wonder why a lot of times we're conscious, and you, like a lot of people, for instance, they'll say, you know, the conscious community is toxic, and then fail to realize that that toxicity that they speak about is not exclusive to the conscious community, because the conscious community is an extension of the toxic black community at large. And the brainwashing intergenerationally that we subjected to, you see perpetuated in how we treat each other, how we act, and how we treat each other and how we act is predicated on how we thought, and how we think is a lot of times predicated on our conditioning. And a lot of times our conditioning have created a certain kind of consciousness within us that affects the way we think and activates the world around us in a negative way. So how do we transcend? How do we overcome? What do we do to transcend and become a better version of ourselves and live our best life, as the saying goes? We got to recalibrate the way we think. We got to understand that, see, the brain, within the brain is made up of millions of neurons, okay? And we create the structure of our neurons based on our thoughts, our habits, our perceptions, you know, so on and so forth. I mean, we constantly positive. If you're constantly pondering negative thoughts, your neurons pertaining to pain and misery will conjoin with each other, right? They will conjoin with each other into a pattern of negative thinking. So this becomes a pattern now. And any experiences that we have attached to negative beliefs sends an electrical message to the hypothalamus part of the brain, which is the chemical manufacturing mechanism of the brain. All right. And what this does, it becomes recognized through the hypothalamus, okay, as a victim thought. And, okay. And a victim thought, right? This is what happens through the hypothalamus. It recognizes it as victimization or a victim thought. Okay. And as a result of that, you know what I'm saying, the hypothalamus responds or corresponds by producing chemicals known as peptides. Okay. And these peptides are released throughout the bodies. So we got to understand that there is a thought, a biochemical, and an attraction power to the way you think. That's right. Even on a cellular level, this phenomenon goes deep. And when you understand the power of the mind, how it works, and the psychological disorders many of us, even in our consciousness, are subjected to, you would want to brainwash yourself as a counter stratagem for the multi-tiered brainwashing that we're already products of. Okay? See, and peptides, what are those? They are basically, you know, biochemical response to your thought process, in other words. Okay? So it is released from the hypothalamus part of your brain, from your posterior, you know what I'm saying, pituitary gland into your blood. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the thoughts that you have, in fact, so there's over like 50 different hormones that the human body produces as a result of thoughts. So a lot of times the chemical imbalance, because a lot of people, even though they're conscious, are chemically imbalanced. A lot of us are effed up in our thinking for many different reasons. But when you understand that there is help for that. There is a way to transcend, right? There is healing. It is real. You have to want it. You have to speak it into existence. You have to ponder it. And in doing so, you can create, recreate, and rewire your own thinking. Okay? When you think negative and you constantly think negative, okay, because of the peptides that are released into your blood, through the posterior pituitary gland, okay? What happens is this becomes a part of your structure or your makeup. Your thought creates your reality, even on a biochemical level. That's right. Now, if you're constantly thinking, there's something on in the quantum science known as the law of attraction. Many of us hear about the law of attraction, but we got to ask ourselves, is what you're attracting to yourself what you really desire? Are you happy in life? Do you want more? Do you think you deserve more? How are you willing to get it? These are the questions you got to ask yourself. And I suggest that through rewiring your brain and recalibrating your thought process and offsetting old habits, right, and implementing new ones for like 21 days, because psychologists suggest, right, and many other people that deal with mind science suggest that it takes 21 days at least Now, that can vary because everybody's different and evolves at different rate. But the general consensus is that after 21 days, right, that you can offset old habits, right, and start new habits or patterns, okay? Now, it goes beyond 21 days. You don't just stop at 21 days and go back to your old ways. You see what I'm saying? So we got to understand that negative thinking constantly attracts negative people, negative situations, and negative outcomes that are undesirable to you in your life. You know what I'm saying? There's something called Murphy's Law, okay? Murphy's Law is named after Eddie Murphy, okay? Now, when I say Eddie Murphy, I'm not talking about the comedian Eddie Murphy either, okay? I'm talking about a person by the name of Captain Edward Murphy, who was an engineer working on an Air Force project known as MX-981. And it was a project basically designed to see how much sudden deceleration a person can stand in a crash, okay? It's basically a theory that suggests that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. A lot of times people have a real Murphian, as I call it, a Murphian law type of pessimistic mentality, a Murphian law pessimistic type of mentality, and all they attract to them is bad gossip, drama, and chaos. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that that are undesirable things to their life. We have to learn how to offset that. We have to learn how to get a new set of thinking patterns and habits and activities, right? And be affirmative with it. You have to be affirmative with it. Because if you're just thinking about it and it's just something in your mind, yeah, it has to be something that you constantly do. You have to be ritualistic with it, meaning you do it on a consistent level. You know what I'm saying? And in doing so, you're offsetting old ways. You're rewiring and restructuring the neurons in your brain. This is very important. And in doing that, you're attracting that which you desire. You're attracting what you desire. Well, you're attracting things to yourself, whether you desire it or not. You know what I'm saying? But you're always attracting. We have to ask yourself, are you attracting what you desire and what you want? Is it constructive or is it destructive? Is it beneficial or is it counterproductive? These are the things you have to ask yourself, okay? And we really want to really understand that the changes that we want, that we can bring about in the world around us, yes, that's a reality too in itself. But you activate the world around you, right? By what you do. See, I always say revolution starts within and it spreads abroad. That's another way of saying that your thought affects the world around you. So when you change yourself, you change your reality. A lot of us are in pain and are hurt. And a lot of us are using this information and facade to try to transcend. But there's a lot of, a lot of luggage, extra luggage, or a lot of clutter in our attics or in our minds that we haven't went up in that attic and we haven't sorted through a lot of that old rubbish. We haven't sorted through a lot of that old garbage and that old rubble that is up in our attics. And when I say attics, I mean our minds. You know what I mean? And because of that, we are stuck in certain habits and patterns, even in our consciousness, even in our attempts to compensate for our damaged condition in this material reality. We see that a lot, not for everybody, but for many. So a lot of people get it. A lot of people are way beyond me even making this video and have already brainwashed themselves and know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Because they understand the law of attraction and they are mastering and trying to remaster that for the benefit of self-improvement and self-advancement and transitioning. Because at the end of the day, that's what this knowledge is supposed to do. It is supposed to transform us and improve us and empower us in this life. Okay? So, you know what I mean? Speaking things into existence is real. You got to understand that the way that the subconscious mind works, everything exists now. You see what I'm saying? Not in the future, not in the past. If you want to give up certain negative habits that you have, eating the wrong foods, smoking cigarettes, if you just say, I want to give up foods, I want to give up eating bad foods or cigarettes, the way that the mind works, it only hears bad food and cigarettes. Okay? Not the give up part. See, you have to already think, and you have to think in the present. The I am dynamic. You have to factor in the I am reality Because I am is now. And the way that the mind deals, it deals in the now, in the here, and in the now. Even if you want to make changes, all right, that are going to benefit you in the future, it is present action that you must take here in the now in order to accomplish things that you want to manifest for the greater good for yourself in the future. You know, a lot of us are hurt, and a lot of us need to be audited, not saying through, you know what I'm saying, any specific religious group or denomination, but, you know, maybe with some counselors, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully they're in tune with some spirituality as well. You know, that was very important. And we need to get counseling. We need to go into our minds. We need to go into those dark places that a lot of us don't want to tap into. We need to touch on those things that hurt, that we want to ignore, that are within ourselves, because we'll do ourselves a better service at being conscious when we can tap into the pain, when we can tap into the hurt, when we can tap into that which we don't deal with, that is still existing within our collective subconscious and that is affecting our lives and the world around us. And is a blessing blocker, and it is in the way of us reaching the apex of our greatness and our potentiality. That's right. We got to tap into each other. You got to want it. Let me give you a little story about myself, okay? Now, you know, we all go through things. You know what I'm saying? Many of us come up rough. Many of us come from very hostile and violent environments. And I myself is no different, you know? I've seen a lot coming up, like many of us. And there's a lot of scars that I had that even in my consciousness, certain not so savory ways would be recognizable in my actions by some people. And it's true. You know what I mean? Because I haven't done what I'm doing now. I have brainwashed, or in the process still of brainwashing myself, or recalibrating my thinking, or transitioning my belief for myself, for the world around me, and has affected me in a positive way. Because even though I studied a lot of history, went into a lot of the metaphysics, was into, you know what I'm saying, the psychology of Black power ideology and how that could work to uplift us, there was one thing that I wasn't factoring in. There's a lot of unchecked issues that I had within my own subconscious that is a hindrance to me connecting to my greatest potential and living my greatest life. And I had to come to terms with that. You see what I'm saying? You know, a lot of stress and pain that I dealt with and deal with in life and overcoming at this point, and have been well into my journey at this point. You know what I mean? But I had to really step back and really evaluate and reevaluate myself. And I had to put some things into perspective for myself. You know what I'm saying? In this life. You know, a lot of different pain, especially when you seen Brother Sankofa, when you seen me first come on the YouTube scene. I've been conscious 30 years through different schools of thoughts or different levels of evolution or upgrading in my level of knowledge, I call it. You know what I'm saying? But this has been for 30 years. Okay? And you know, when I first came into the YouTube community, I had a lot going on in my life at the time. You know what I'm saying? I had my youngest brother. You know, I'm the oldest of three. My youngest brother had got incarcerated. As a result, he's doing life in prison for murder. You know what I mean? And when you first started seeing me come on the YouTube scene in 2013, a lot of that was going on then. You know what I'm saying? My little brother had just got convicted. You know what I'm saying? The ripple effect that it had on my family and how it hurt my mother and broke her down. I had to bear the brunt of a lot of that pain. You know what I'm saying? It was just crazy, a crazy time. I mean, when he got arraigned in court, I mean, it was such a crazy, high profile and crazy case that, you know, I guess somebody tried to get up in the courthouse out in Boston, you know what I'm saying, with a gun, and gang task force had to come evacuate the courthouse. And it was just crazy. Later that night, somebody came around the block, my mother's way, and sprayed up the block and shot my other brother, the middle sibling. I'm the oldest, the middle one. The younger one's doing life in prison now. Came and shot him up. I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, during the trial, 2 years later, when it came time for trial, they had to postpone the trial because, you know, downtown Boston in front of Superior Court, I guess different people involved in different places. And, you know, as a result of what happened and what my brother's locked up for, you know, it hit the fan in front of the courthouse and a few people got stabbed up, man. There was a lot of carnage and bloodshed. It was great. It was crazy. It was gruesome. They had to postpone my brother's charge. And I knew that wasn't going to look good for him. Already a high profile case, already a serious situation, a lot of different families affected. As a result of what happened, I was affected too. So even though you see me coming out, kicking knowledge, disseminating information in all sincerity and love in my heart to the people, you know, I had a propensity to having bad habits as a result of dealing with my pain. So I had a propensity to drink a little more. You know what I'm saying? To smoke a lot more bud. You know what I'm saying? To have intimacy with a lot of different women I really didn't care too much for. Probably didn't care too much for me. You know what I'm saying? To try to drown my sorrows away. You know what I'm saying? To offset, instead of dealing with the pain that I was dealing with as a result of what my family was going through. You know what I'm saying? I was doing negative things. You know better. You're supposed to show better. And when you don't do that, as a result, people, damn, brother Sankofa, a little saucy, or damn, brother smoke a lot. You know, I was dealing with a lot of pain. It wasn't dealing with it the right way. Wasn't dealing with it the right way. Instead of being constructive, I was being destructive. And it shows. And when it shows, see what happens is, you know, people start to see the Rick James in you. They don't see the Malcolm X in you. They see the Rick James in you. You know what I'm saying? But they don't understand the deep level tiered pain. And I already dealt with a lot of pain before. Seeing my grandmother in a coffin at age 6, shot in the head. She was a community activist who was killed in Boston in 1981. I was like 6, 7 years old. You know what I'm saying? But I remember seeing my grandmother in the coffin. And they had an open coffin funeral for her too. I remember seeing the little dimple in her head and her face swelled up, wondering, wow, why would they give her an open coffin funeral? You know, that had a long-term deleterious psychological effect on me. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us have seen different things. I'm just sharing with you some highlights. I've been through a whole lot. Coming up in the main streets of Boston was crazy for me. I came up in a wild place, in a wild time, in a wild section of town called Dorchester, and borderline of Roxbury, on a very live block called Blue Hill Ave. And I seen a lot of things that made me think violence was normal. And the way you deal with issues, you know what I'm saying, was you know what, on a drop of a dime. You know what I'm saying? Although I don't think like that now, and I haven't thought like that for a long time. I myself came up and had many violent tendencies, done some violence, and I even had to do time as a result of things that I've done. Even when I knew better, I was still somewhat conscious and young at the time. And the whole point of me sharing my story with you is not to let you know how hardcore Sankofa's life was, but to let you know that many of us have many different types of experience, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, seeing things in the community that give you a certain mentality that affects you and affects the way you see people. A lot of times your own people, because this is the people in our community that we see, that we're closest to, that we interact with on a regular basis. That toxicity level we exhibit towards each other. We see it prevalent and evident in how we talk to, treat, and deal with each other on the smallest level. You could lose your life. You could lose your life for nothing sometimes. Something little is what I mean by nothing. So, but for nothing sometimes. And a lot of time it's because it is a result of social engineering, intergenerational brainwashing, okay? Also the immediate community that you're living in, okay? Also what's being endowed, the foods that you eat, the thoughts that you have as a result of the music that you listen to, and your immediate social group, even the people you hang around. You know what I'm saying? You might have to separate yourself from that if you want to transition and brainwash yourself, okay? And you want to start to attract to you what you want, as hard as it may be, because we all creatures of habit and we love our friends and our family, even sometimes we don't agree with them, but on a soul-seeking mission to transcend and evolve yourself into greatness, and knowing the power of your own being, sometimes it is imperative that you isolate yourself from certain circles and social settings. Put social restrictions on yourself. Change the way you think. Transcend. That's right. That old nigga that's within you, the old ways that you have, you want to give those up, you can. The power of your own being is real. Here and now. Don't say I will, say I am. And manifest that into existence in stages. You can do it. You can slay that old person. You can give up the cigarettes. You can lose that weight. You can overcome your financial situation if it's an unsavory one. Everything takes time and everything happens in stages, but every journey begins with the first step. That first step is knowing the power of your own being and having a want and desire for change. And that change will be inevitable once you embark on it. And once you have the right mind and understand that on the quantum level, the mind attracts everything to you. And once you start to attract the right things to you, you develop a certain pattern of doing things. And in that pattern, you attract the right things to you at the right time. Start to do things, on a regular daily basis for 21 days, and you'll start to see old habits fade away. And it takes time, sometimes longer than 21 days. And you'll start to see you're ushering in new habits, and it's benefiting you. You can change. You can give up. You can old negative thinking. You know what I'm saying? That is not good for you and good for the relationships that you have. You may have burnt many bridges because of that. You can slay that old nigga. When I say nigga, I'm talking about a mentality. I'm talking about a low frequency, low leveled, low natured mentality. The worst part of ourselves in our sojourn here in America is the nigga mentality. You can slay that nigga on the altar of transformation. You can slay that nigga on the altar of knowing the power of your own being. You have to ask yourself, is it important? Do you want it? And what are you willing to do to sacrifice to bring that into fruition? It's free. Only thing you have to pay is attention to your greatest qualities and gift, which is your higher faculty of thought. Knowing the power of your own being is the first step to the transformation that can change your life for the rest of your life and impact others into the changes that they want and that they desire and that they need, even if they don't know at this point or juncture in their journey called life that they need it. All right? So you are what you think, eat, and drink. Change the way you eat, change what you think, and change your habits and ways, and watch you activate the world around you in a way that is desirable for your own personal growth and development, and you'll inspire others. So I hope you got a little something out of this video, and we want to definitely engage and delve into this topic and subject matter more, because in 30 minutes you can only go but so much into this topic. The topic has layers, and many people do need to consider and reconsider certain things about the way they think about themselves, the world around them in a negative way. You know what I'm saying? And really infuse themselves with a whole new way of thinking, a whole new spirit, and watch you bring about a whole new outcome in your life. Until next time, peace, love, and light. And remember to say to yourself, I am and I will, because you can. So speak it into existence. Peace, love, and light.